I'm like, I want to make out with you, I want to marry you, eat you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Or I wouldn't be that mom, that toxic boy mom. He hits his sisters, he punches them. I'm like, maybe he's having a hard day.
Meet me at the altar, baby. Tiny boyfriend gang.
Boy moms, we gotta step up. We gotta realize that we are the problem.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video. My name is Rachel, and this little beauty is Kyra. You may hear her snuffling and grumbling throughout the video, because that's just what she does. It's who she is. And I wouldn't change her for the world, would I, Bebs? No, I wouldn't. Hi. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I have wanted to talk about for a while, but just never got round to it for reasons. And that is toxic boy mums and how proud they are of their entirely inappropriate behaviour. Now, there's a hell of a lot of videos bragging about being a toxic boy mum over on TikTok and Instagram and websites like that. And today I have downloaded a few of them and we're going to watch them together, talk about them. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own experience of dating a boy with dating a man with a very toxic mum. And I'm also going to be referencing a couple of books on the subject that talk about why some mothers and other parents act this way, become this way, what effects that has on the child, both short and long term. And also, at the end, we're kind of going to touch a little bit on the healing process from it, but that's more of something that I'm just going to give you some resources for and point you in that direction if you need it. Now, disclaimers out the way first, of course. Obviously, not all mothers to boys are boy mums in this sense, but the kind of parent we're talking about is one who kind of idolizes having a male child over a female one. There's often a lot of internalized misogyny rooted in putting down girls all the time and calling female children things like sneaky, manipulative, too emotional, too much hard work, and so on. And then, of course, there's the possessiveness that these mothers have over their sons. Hi, gorgeous. Oh, stealing the baby. Stealing the baby. Hi. There's a lot of stuff about how these mothers are their sons' first loves. Yeah, okay. There's a lot of content that puts down any women that their son is currently dating or may date in the future. There's a lot of competitiveness with both current and future romantic partners. And it often borders on creepy emotional incest, where the mothers see their sons more like partners than their children. And often these mothers will get mad if their children don't reciprocate those feelings. If a toxic boy mum has daughters too, you might see the mother pitting the boys or boy against the girl or girls, obviously showing favoritism, treating the boy differently or better, letting the boy get away with inappropriate behaviour that she wouldn't allow the girls to do. And this can cause a lot of problems between siblings, a lot of rivalry, a lot of difficulties in their relationship and forming a bond, and so on. All of this, of course, can lead to major emotional trauma for the boy as he grows up and becomes a man. This can include things like codependency issues. He may struggle having romantic relationships with women. He might learn toxic, misogynistic behavior and think that it's okay to mistreat women because his mother let him get away with it so much as a child. And it can cause long-term problems, like I say, between siblings. And there's a lot. We'll go into more detail later in this video, don't worry. Now, this isn't to say that this kind of dysfunctional relationship is limited to strictly mothers and sons. We often also see the same with fathers and daughters, and even parents with the same gender children. If you've ever seen a parent saying something like, "Oh, we're more like best friends than mother and daughter," that's the kind of thing that I mean. When it comes to fathers and daughters and the whole kind of like girl dads, daddy's little princess sort of thing, we often see fathers being overprotective and in some ways sexualizing their daughters far too young, with statements about how he'll need to fight off boys, or she can't wear certain clothing that might be too revealing, even though this is like, a toddler or a 5-year-old or, just someone really young. It's seeing these children as sexual beings far too early. And there is a hell of a lot to say about those kinds of relationships, but I'm going to start in this video today with the mother-son one because I just find it fascinating. It's one of the most common, but it's also the one that is just excused the most. Especially these days and in a lot of short form content online, these mothers seem proud of their behaviour. In a lot of cases, they kind of realise that what they're doing is toxic and unhealthy, but they're not sorry for it. They make no efforts to stop. They don't really care about the damage they're doing. A lot of the times, people don't see the damage that these mothers are causing, and they make a lot of excuses for it, like, "Oh, well, it's just a mummy's boy. What are you going to do?" And that's why I think it's really important to notice these patterns and trends and behaviors and talk about it and kind of call them out and talk about what we can do to make these situations better. So let's look at a few videos and talk about it. Let's start off relatively tame. This is the least offensive video of the bunch. So
you'll be his first kiss, his first love, his first friend. You are his mom, and he is your whole world. He's your little boy.
And okay, if this was just about being there for your kid, being their first support, their first friend, building up that relationship of love and trust between a parent and child, I would get it. But where it gets me is the whole you'll be his first kiss and his first love thing. While it might, I guess, kind of technically maybe be true, it's really important to understand the difference between a romantic relationship and familial love. And there are different behaviors that are appropriate in each of those kinds of love and relationship, and it's important to maintain boundaries. And when you start blurring that line and acting like a parent-child relationship is the same as a romantic relationship, or that familial love is the same and expressed the same way as romantic love, that's where you start to have problems. There's nothing wrong with a parent kissing their child, but when you start comparing those kisses to the kisses they'll have later on in their life in a romantic relationship, that's a little bit problematic. You cannot, or rather should not, compare a parent kissing their child to show love with a kid growing up and having their first romantic kiss or experiencing their first romantic love. It's not appropriate. When you start to blur those boundaries between familial and romantic love in that way, you start to err into the territory of emotional incest, which is a loaded term, but it's a very, very appropriate one, and it's one that I'm going to be talking about in more detail in just a few minutes, actually. This woman isn't so bad, though, compared to a lot of them. There are so many women online who act like the worst thing their son can do is grow up and have a romantic relationship with someone else who isn't them. Again, blurring those boundaries between familial love and romantic love in a way that is entirely inappropriate. There are literally women out there who talk about their sons getting partners, and when that happens, it's like the son is breaking up with them. It's really messed up. Here's a screenshot of a video that I found on Reddit which expresses exactly that. It says, when you raise 3 boys for 28 years, then they break up with you. And then of course there's a women who express a lot of jealousy towards future girlfriends. And the thing is, like, it's bad enough when you're an adult woman dating a man whose mother is like this. I have stories about that to tell you later on in this video. But it's a whole other thing to see these mothers bragging that they're going to be like this years before they even actually have to deal with it. So these are like sons who are children, or in some cases still babies, and the mother's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna hate his girlfriend when he gets one." So these mothers are really, like, as early as possible, as young as possible, implanting these ideas in their heads that they should somehow feel guilty if they ever have a romantic relationship, and that as their mothers, if they do, she's going to be angry and jealous and they're to blame for that. These women are literally just setting their kids up to have dysfunctional relationships with other people, and playing it off as like, oh, it's just this cute little joke, when it's not. You're damaging your children. Take a look at this next video where this woman's son is 2 weeks old. 2 weeks old! And she thinks it's appropriate to cry online about the fact that he's going to get married and move out one day. Next up, this woman is posting the same video with her 2 sons, draping herself on them like a girlfriend would, calling them the love of her life, and acting angry and possessive about the fact she'll one day have to, and I quote, share them with a female. There is so much to unpack for such short videos. Like, one, these 2 kids are old enough that they are going to see these videos, they're going to know what content you're making and asking them to partaking in the message behind it, and they're going to internalize this whole thing. They're going to get these terrible feelings of, like, guilt if they ever have a partner. They're going to... It's going to mess them up is what I'm saying. They're old enough that this is going to mess them up long term. 2, look at the difference in language between how this woman speaks about men and women. My baby boy and another female. Like, it's covertly misogynistic, it's dehumanizing to the woman in question. It's not okay. 3, I always wonder about these mothers. Do they never consider the fact that maybe their kids are going to be gay? Maybe they'll like men? Would they be less intimidated if you brought home a man than if they brought home a woman? I don't know. Or what if their kids just aren't interested in romantic relationships at all? That is absolutely a thing. Although actually maybe they prefer that. And 4, and this is the main point, sorry, but even if he does bring home a woman at some point. You are not sharing him. You're not another partner of his, you're his mother. And they are very different roles in a person's life. He is not your boyfriend, he is your son. You are not his girlfriend or partner, you are his mother. You do not have a romantic relationship with him. So if he starts a romantic relationship with someone else, you are not sharing him. That's not how it works. And in this video, I can't play the audio, but it's a mother lip syncing the words of a song to her sons. Like, she's doing it in front of them. They can hear the song. They know the lyrics. She's saying, "But she's beautiful, she looks kind, she probably gives you butterflies. I hope you're happy, but not like how you were with me. I'm selfish, I know. I can't let you go, so find someone great, but don't find no one better." So this is Olivia Rodrigo's song Happier, which is about, like, not being over a breakup, right? And it's like, okay, and the lyrics are basically like, okay, yeah, you're moving on, but I've not, and I don't believe you're ever going to find anyone better than me, and I don't want you to be happier with someone else than you were with me, right? Fine, whatever. I think we've all had those kinds of petty feelings after a bad breakup and can relate to it while still recognizing how unhealthy it is and so on. It's a breakup song about the hard part after a relationship ends, right? Fine, okay. So why is a mother singing it to her sons? Why? This is literally a mother saying to her very young and very impressionable children, I don't want you to have a life without me. I don't want you to be happy or fulfilled without me. I'm in direct competition with your future romantic partners, and I feel like I'm better. No one's ever going to be as good as me. Like, that is such a damn unhealthy thing to tell your young children. It's unreal, right? Here's another screenshot from a woman dancing with her 2 teenage sons, implying that she'll fight their girlfriends when they get them. And in the caption she says, and this is so over the top and over dramatic, I can't cope with this. Please tell me this isn't true. Mama bros, they will love me forever, right? I'll always be their first girlfriend, right? I'm not ready for her. Real talk, ladies. They aren't dating until 30. And then there was all this like stuff in the comments of women being like, oh, I'm the same, I'm exactly the same. Yep, I agree, me too. One woman was like, my son's 14 and trying to date. I've rejected 2 so far. They will never be good enough. It's so damn messed up. Way back in 1991, a woman named Dr. Patricia Love, great name, wrote a book called The Emotional Incest Syndrome, What to Do When a Parent's Love Rules Your Life. And basically it's about how to identify what emotional incest is and how to heal from it at any age if you were a child who had to deal with that from a parent. It's obviously quite an old book now, however, so much of what we see in this book and read in this book is still very relevant today. And if anything, the behaviours in this book are not only the same as what we see today, but today they're even more overt. They're even more in our faces. They're even more obvious. A lot of the stories she tells of patients in this book that she actually worked with, in those cases, the parents weren't really aware of what they were doing, but today it feels like a lot of these mothers are not only aware of their behaviour, but see it as something to brag about and refuse to do anything about the damage that they're causing their children. There's another book I'm going to be looking at in this video too, called Silently Seduced, When Parents Make Their Children Partners, and that was written by Kenneth M. Adams in 2011. Kenneth calls this whole problem that I'm talking about in this video covert incest, and he describes it as covert incest occurs when a child becomes the object of a parent's affection, love, passion, and preoccupation. The parent, motivated by loneliness and emptiness created by a chronically troubled marriage or relationship, makes the child a surrogate partner. The boundary between caring love and incestuous love is crossed when the relationship with the child exists to meet the needs of the parent rather than those of the child. So he calls this covert incest, however Patricia uses the term emotional incest. Both mean the same thing basically. And Patricia admits that this is a loaded term, especially just the word incest. People are like, oh god, it's a serious thing, let's not call it that. But it is a serious thing. She feels that while emotional incest may be a loaded term, it is relevant and appropriate to use. To put it simply, it means that the parent and child are too closely enmeshed, in her words, and that this enmeshment can take a number of forms. She writes that she and others use the term emotional incest because, just as children are powerless against a parent's sexual advances, they are powerless against an emotionally invasive parent. Their sense of self is so limited and their need to be connected to their parent is so great that adults have total control over the relationship. When a parent takes advantage of this power and turns to a son or daughter for need fulfillment, there's a violation of the intimacy taboo between parent and child. She talks about how there's many different kinds of emotional incest, but one of them she describes as a romanticizing parent, and this is exactly what we see in a lot of those clips that we just watched, and a lot of the ones we have coming up. So she writes that a romanticizing parent is a parent who turns to a child of the opposite sex for the intimacy and companionship one would normally expect to find in a loving relationship. In essence, the child becomes a surrogate spouse. Often the parent adores the child. Typically there's a flirtatious, teasing quality to the relationship, which is what we've just watched. However, some of these women take it even further, as we'll see in this next set of clips.
Aw, young love. I remember that feeling. My first boyfriend.
That's his mom.
What?
That's not his girlfriend, that's his mom.
What?
So here we see these mothers not just trying to take on the emotional role of a girlfriend, but in these cases, to at least some extent, the physical role of a girlfriend too. Jumping into his arms, straddling his waist, slow dancing with him to a romantic song. Like in the latter video, even going as far as to physically remove his actual girlfriend from the situation and sideline her so that she can be the one to romantically dance with him. And then of course there's a whole element of bragging about it online. Wild. These situations are not just parents being proud of their kids or feeling close to their kids. It's not just a mother hugging a son, it's not just a mother dancing with her son, it's the whole context around them that makes them entirely inappropriate. The caption here of showing up to my son's girlfriend's birthday party to pick him up, and he ended up slow dancing with me. Like, this isn't just a cute parent-child dance, this is a woman deliberately crossing boundaries to put the new girlfriend, who she sees as competition, in her place. Okay, I'm just back from walking the little beast, so apologies if I'm a little bit windswept. Right, where were we? So, Dr. Patricia, in her book, she points out that in these cases, and I quote, the parent is turning to the child for intimacy, companionship, romantic stimulation, advice, problem solving, ego fulfillment, and/or emotional release. The child is not equipped to handle these needs and suffers long-lasting consequences as a result. And also, the parent is ignoring many of the child's needs. When a parent turns to a child for emotional support, the child is rarely given adequate protection, nurturing, guidance, structure, affection, affirmation, or discipline. And we see this displayed a hell of a lot in the next video, where a woman talks about how she never saw healthy mother-son dynamics as a kid, so now, with her own son, she has feelings of literally wanting, and I quote, to make out with him. And she's like talking to the camera being like, I don't know if this is normal or not. Obviously it's not, but here we are.
I had brothers growing up, so I never got to like really see a mother-son dynamic very close up. So now things that I'm experiencing, I'm like, I want to make out with you, I want to marry you, eat you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm like, is that normal? So when I saw that DM come in, I was like, okay, maybe I'm crazy. No, I knew I wasn't, but you sometimes forget that there's other people that are very like-minded, and so to see your thousands of DMs come in, you guys are like, meet me at the altar, baby, tiny boyfriend gang. I'm like, these are my girls. So just nice to know that you guys are there and we're all on the same page. Anyway, it's just so funny. No, it's all in good fun, but tiny boyfriend club forever. I'm the president, baby.
Sexual feelings towards your child, or any child for that matter, where you want to literally make out with them, are not normal and not healthy, and something that you should be addressing. Here's another odd example for you too, and this was one I found on Reddit. This is a screenshot of a 45-year-old woman's dating profile, where the very first photograph is an image of her kissing her maybe 10 or 11-year-old son on the lips. Not like a little peck, but like proper full-on kiss on the lips. And this is the very first thing that she wants people to see representing her. This is what she wants to put out into the world, saying, this is me, this is what I'm all about. Her bio on her dating app reads, I have a little boy that is all boy. He takes protecting his mama very seriously by hunting, ... and it was cut off there ominously. So the big thing that I want to focus on here is just how much responsibility she's putting on this very young child. She's clearly a single woman, if she's on a dating app, right? So instead of relying on herself or a partner to take care of her and protect her, she's putting all of that responsibility on her young son, and that is going to put so much pressure on him. She is, with the whole like kissing and the he's protecting me thing, whatever, she is putting him in the role of like a surrogate partner, right? She shouldn't, and that is going to have problems for him long term. Both Patricia and Kenneth write about this respectively in their books. Patricia says of her own experiences with clients, "Part of my clients' confusion could be traced to the fact that many of their fundamental needs had been ignored. Their parents' need for intimacy and companionship had taken precedence over their need for nurturing and independence. While my clients may have delighted in all the parental attention, on a deeper level they felt exposed and confined. They didn't feel free to be who they were or develop at their own pace, they felt manipulated and controlled." Meanwhile, Kenneth writes, "The child feels used and trapped. These are the same feelings over incest victims experience. Attempts at play, autonomy, and friendship rendered the child guilt-ridden and lonely, never able to feel okay about his or her needs. Over time, the child becomes preoccupied with the parent's needs and feels protective and concerned. A psychological marriage between parent and child results. The child becomes the parent's surrogate spouse." And that's what we're seeing in these posts, and I genuinely worry for these children. And the thing is, like, it's not just these children that suffer, or like, you know, when they're kids and when they're adults, it's not just them. It's if they have future partners, their future partners suffer too. When I was with my ex, Dan, and we lived together for like 4 years or whatever, and we were very, very serious, and his mum was a nightmare the entire time. We're talking like she would cry down the phone and guilt trip him if he didn't pick up his phone call straight away. She would blame me because he didn't want to talk to her all the time. She would passive aggressively constantly compare me to his ex and say how like, "Oh, wasn't she so pretty? Wasn't she so beautiful?" You know, obviously implying that I wasn't, but the ex was. And it was to make me insecure and jealous. And, you know, she was pitting us against each other because she felt in competition with me, you know? Once she took me to her house against my will to show me the shrine she had to a predatory cult leader who had sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl that she had in her attic. The shrine was in her attic, he wasn't, but that's a whole other story. I've actually got a video about it if you want to see. She was a mother-in-law from hell. She would constantly brag about how she would constantly get mistaken for his girlfriends if they went out to a bar together or something like that. One of the worst things that happened though was the Christmas I spent with his family, where it was Christmas Eve and me and him were like snuggled up by the fire. We had a couple of little glasses of Prosecco. We were having a lovely time, very romantic. And his mum comes in, basically like shoves me to the side and gets him to lay down on the floor so that she can literally straddle him and give him a full body massage, including like his bum and everywhere. And I was like, okay, so I'm feeling like a third wheel here. And then on Christmas Day itself, his sister had some friends over and they were literally doing nothing but like sitting at the kitchen table watching mumble rap videos on their laptop. And I was like, is this all anyone's gonna do? And I was honestly really, really bored because I was just like sat there in silence, like I have nothing to add to this. Occasionally they'd be like, "Don't you think he's hot?" And I was like, no, about some man who had like 3 teeth and face tattoos. And I was like, it's not really my kind of thing, sorry. And so I just didn't have anything to add, and like I didn't want to express my actual opinions because that would be rude. So I was just sat there in silence, and I was like, "Hey Dan, do you want to like go play a board game or something?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then that's when his mum started hysterically crying and saying that I was taking her son away from her and I was an awful person, and it caused a massive argument, and he ended up having to lay in bed with her while she cried about how awful I was. Meanwhile, I was left alone crying in another room on the phone to my sister because I was just like, what the hell just happened? It was so messed up. It was really, really... all because I asked him to play a board game. That's not even scratching the surface of how bad he was. Absolute nightmare. But safe to say, she was one of many reasons why I ended up breaking up with him. And I was just like, I cannot live with this woman for the rest of my life. He's not worth dealing with her. Especially because he didn't know how to put any boundaries in place between them. And when he did, she was always crossing them and the words. You know what I'm trying to say? I have no idea what he's doing now, but if he has another partner, I genuinely feel sorry for them because God knows what they're having to deal with. Anyway, I tell you this because, like I say, it's not just the kids when they grow up who have to deal with this stuff, but it's their partners and potential partners too. And I'm not the only one with a story like this. Listen to this other one that I found on TikTok.
We've all dated that one guy whose mother was quite literally obsessed with them, right? This isn't just like a me thing. This is like an all of us thing, right? Because I have done this. And let me just say, this was one of the worst experiences of my entire life, actually. I dated this guy years ago, right? And his mommy just loved him to death. And when I say loved, like a parent should love their kid, yeah. But like to the point, to the extent that the mom could never accept me as a girlfriend ever. She just did not like me no matter what I did. She just didn't like me at all. And there was nothing I could do to change that. And she would actively tell me how much she liked his ex-girlfriend. And I don't even know why, but she would actively come into like his room. We'd be sitting there like watching TV or whatever, and she'd be like, I just really liked so-and-so, and she was so sweet, and blah, blah. And I'm like, bitch, have you met me? So anyway, I hope that she is able to marry her son like she so desperately wants to, and I just hope that that wedding is beautiful and incestuous and just, oh yes, girl, incestuous wedding with your son, slay. I just would love to get a wedding invite for that.
And again, more examples. Here's a story from Patricia's book. A client named Rita told a story about the first night she stayed over with her boyfriend, a quintessential mama's boy. She was awakened by a phone call at 6 in the morning. Her boyfriend answered the phone. It was his mother demanding to talk to her. Somehow his mother had found out that she'd stayed the night. Her boyfriend handed her the receiver. I'm Lenore, intoned the mother as soon as Rita said hello. Are you having an affair with my son? Sorry, just notice that word there. Affair. It's not an affair. He's not cheating. You're not his party. She's in a relationship with your son. She's not having an affair with him. Ooh, that alone is enough for me. The accusatory tone of the mother's voice sent chills up her spine. Rita had no idea how to respond and hung up the phone in confusion, because wouldn't we all, right? Her instinct was to run out of the apartment and never see her boyfriend again. I sensed that getting involved with him would bring me nothing but trouble. Later, she realized that she should have trusted her instincts because her mother-in-law dominated her husband's life. She monitored his climb up the corporate ladder. She bought his underwear. She kept track of his income. She watched his health like a hawk. What surprised Rita was that her husband allowed all this. He acted more like a 12-year-old boy than a grown man. Severely enmeshed with his mother, he'd never managed to break away. He allowed her the same control over his life that she'd exercised when he was a small boy. Patricia goes on to write that unless these children set strict boundaries with their parents, then this will go on forever. Even if they end up getting married and should supposedly have their own lives, they never really do. She writes, it's not uncommon for the invasive parent to dictate how newlyweds should run their household, to require frequent phone calls or visits, to encourage financial ties between families, to insist that the couple live nearby, ideally in the same house, and to dictate the terms of all family gatherings. These demands are a clear violation of the autonomy of the younger couple. And it's not just creepy flirtation and romantic intentions. These kinds of mothers tend to favour male children over female ones, which often leads to other children feeling isolated. They don't have a strong connection with their siblings, they can feel like they're always blamed for problems, or that they're unfairly punished. The chosen child, in this case usually like the boy with the mums and that sort of thing, so that the favoured ones will often get away with behaviour that others can't, and amongst young boys, this is particularly problematic because it can lead to them growing up to be extremely misogynistic, violent, or thinking that they can get away with inappropriate behaviour, especially towards women. Look at these examples of a mother instilling these poor values in their sons. Yeah, the words not want to come out then. Also, can we please talk about how awful it must be for this daughter, for her mum to come to her and be like, hey, kiddo, will you come be in this video about how you're not my favourite child and I punish you more harshly than your siblings just so mummy can make money off your neglect, please? That poor kid. This video that I want to show you here, I'm having to cut the sound because copyrighted music, but basically she's mouthing the words to To someone saying, no, 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 no way, I don't think so, pal, as the caption reads, when I hear my husband putting the favourite child in time out. So again, picking favourites, pitting the kids against each other, and in this case also pitting the son against the father. Because when you have these kinds of, mother-son overprotective, overly enmeshed bond, it isolates the father from the son and the mother from the daughters as well. Here is just one last example for you, and I want you to listen to this and immediately note how she's like, I love all my kids, but... and then immediately pits the boys against the girls and makes the girls feel lesser because she favours the boys.
I never thought that I would be that toxic boy mom. I love my 4 kids equally, but that last little boy just hits different. And now I feel like I'm having this existential crisis. Before I wouldn't be that mom, that toxic boy mom. He hits his sisters, he punches them. I'm like, maybe he's having a hard day. So when I think about my daughters getting married, I get excited, right? Think about their dresses, planning their weddings. When I think about my son's wedding, I want to cry. Boy mums, we've got to step up. We've got to realize that we are the problem.
So then she talks about how she excuses and minimizes literally his violent behavior instead of stopping it and teaching him healthy outlets for emotions. This is the kind of kid who will grow up thinking violence against women is okay or excusable because, hey, you had a bad day, right? As his mum constantly tells him when he's violent towards women. And then finally, it comes back to the whole I don't want him to get married creepy thing that we started with, and it's all so damn unhealthy. At least at the end of the video, she's starting to realize that she is the problem here, but as far as I can tell from her other content, she hasn't done anything about it, so... yay. So to summarize, in case I haven't made it clear enough, the long-term consequences of this kind of behavior from boy mums can include guilt and confusion over personal needs, feelings of inadequacy, struggling to maintain long-term relationships and difficulty with commitment, sexual dysfunction, loneliness and exclusion from peers, extreme fluctuations in self-esteem, depression and anxiety. However, all is not lost. Kenneth writes in his book that if you're a man and find yourself identifying with covert incest victims, it would be good to keep in mind that the intent here is not to blame your mother, but to hold her accountable. To continue to deny the damage the relationship has caused will keep you trapped in the struggle to find contentment with yourself and your partner. Emotional maturity cannot be realized until the covert incest survivors emancipate themselves. One cannot be an adult man or woman and simultaneously hold on to mummy or daddy. He then offers some practical bits of advice for how you can help heal from this and move on, including things like you need to let go of your idealized image of the seductive parent, acknowledge your anger towards the seductive parent. If your seductive parent is alive, begin to set boundaries and separate from them. Deal with your feelings towards the same-sex parent. Learn to manage guilt feelings and so on. Of course, these are easier said than done, but his book offers some practical advice and tips for how to do these things if you want to check it out for yourself. Otherwise, a great thing to do is go see a therapist. They can really, really help you work through this stuff, and I cannot recommend therapy enough. I've had it for my own issues, I continue to see my therapist occasionally, and I will always encourage others to go as well, because I just think it makes your life better. But if you do want to check out either of the 2 books I've mentioned, I will leave them linked down in the video description. They're also affiliate links, so if you click on them or buy anything via those links, it just helps support me and my channel, and gives me a little few pence extra here and there, which is very nice. Overall though, the point of this video was that I feel like as a society it's important to keep talking about and calling out harmful behaviour when we see it, and I hope videos like this can be educational and helpful and offer you a little bit of hope and advice and guidance where possible. Other than that, I just hope you've been thoroughly entertained today, and thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, it would be wonderful if you want to subscribe and stick around. I make new videos all the time. My next one that I've got coming out is a review of Marina, who used to be of Marina and the Diamonds, her poetry book. People have been asking for that for ages, and I finally made it, so, I'm just about to film it now. So, yeah, look out for that. Turn on notifications if you want to be there, ready, waiting when that video comes out. I talk about all kinds of issues, books, poetry, feminist stuff, kind of, and mostly just whatever interests me at the time. Isn't that right, baby bear? Hi, good girl. it'd be great to have you. If you want to go follow me on Instagram, you can. It's at Rachel Oates with a 0 instead of an O. And over there, I post pictures of my beautiful dog, Kyra, a lot of gig photography that I do, some nature photography. Occasionally I will post, I'm doing like little book recommendations and stuff, all sorts. And if you'd like to, you can also support me over on Patreon, where you can get some really cool stuff like exclusive stickers and prints of art and photography I've done that get sent out to you every 3 months, which is really cool and really fun. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of that. So, and without my Patreon supporters, I wouldn't be able to keep making content like this. So thank you all so much to everyone who's already supported me over there. And thank you to anyone who might be considering it. But for now, yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.